Welcome, one and all, to Pokemon Cobalt and Pokemon Crimson, a fan-made Pokemon project based on the themes, concepts, and culture surrounding the medium of video games. This massive archipelago system of islands is the gaming fanatic Gemuzo region. Here, we can discover new video game themed Pokemon, meet the region's people, and discover the story surrounding two rivaling professors and the box legendaries. The Gemuzo region awaits, and I got us first class tickets to fly there. I am J5 the Hyperforce, the host of this Hypertalks-a-thon, welcoming you to the wondrous world of Pokemon Cobalt and Pokemon Crimson. Come on, let's go! Ichigo, Reina, viewer, welcome! As you all well know, this world is inhabited by special creatures known as Pokemon. They are very powerful and useful in many ways. They are our friends to cherish, to compete with, to help with everyday life. The Gemuzo region is filled with many never-before-seen Pokemon, and a competitive scene like no other. It rivals Galar's in terms of cultural importance to the region. You know of the Poke esports circuit, right? You don't, viewer? Well, maybe that's another topic for another day. Subscribe with the bell on so you can support the continuation of this project and see what the heck a Poke esports circuit is. Sorry, something got stuck in my throat there. I'm getting ahead of myself though, I'm sorry. To even go out and enjoy the vast culture of the Gemuzo region, you're gonna need a first partner starter Pokemon. Why is it first partner? It's such a mouthful. Sorry, anyways, I'm getting sidetracked again. It's what I tend to do on these Hypertalks. Professor Deku, one of our region's Pokemon professors studying Pokemon DNA, was kind enough to bring me 3 Pokeballs containing the region's starter Pokemon. Once you've watched this whole video, let me know in the comments below who you're going to be picking for your journey. So without further ado, let me showcase to you the starter Pokemon of the Gemuzo region, the starter Pokemon of Pokemon Cobalt and Pokemon Crimson. But before we start, however, I would also like to disclaim that everything is pretty much a finalized rough draft, in a sense. While these are solid concepts and designs, they can always be revisited to make them better in the future. If Subjectively's Maza region has taught me anything, it's that even the best concepts could be improved upon at a later time. So if you have any suggestions to suggest at the end of the video, please don't hesitate to drop them in the comments below. There's also additional information in the description below, talking about some extra stuff that I'm not going to be covering in the main video because it just bloats the main video, such as the Pokédex screen that you'll be seeing in a moment, and what the heck is a Hypertalks-a-thon? Essentially, additional information will be found in the description below, if I remember to put it in there. So, I know Pokemon games / the Pokédex tend to start with the grass starter. The Unova Pokédex is the only one that doesn't start with the grass starter, it starts with Victini. But I'm gonna mix things up here. And the Gemuzo Pokédex will be starting with the fire starter, Kindhop, the kangaroo mouse Pokemon, pure fire type. This jumpy little boy is based on the kangaroo mouse, just as its category suggests, or a Jubboa, whatever you want to call it. It has a fireball-looking mass of fur on its face, and a little flame on its tail. A little kindle, you could say. This little kindle of fire is just like the fur at the tips of Jubboa's tails. These little guys love to hop around with each other, and jump onto and over things. They're little bouncy boys. Let's check out the Pokédex information. Kindhops are very energetic Pokemon with unexpected speed and jumping abilities. It loves to jump around from place to place, leaving behind kindles of fire thanks to their fiery feet. Kindhop's movements are very linear, strangely enough. If there is an obstacle in the way of their path, they will attempt to jump over it, not realizing they can just go around the obstacle. If they can't advance, they get upset. A very silly little Pokemon, aren't they? As the Pokédex mentions, their fire powers mainly come from their feet. Those fire powers aren't too strong right now, but wait until it evolves into Jumpyro, the jumping Pokemon, fire flying type. This Pokemon is hard to explain without mentioning the final evolution. So this guy is like a mouse creature? The fireball fur face is starting to grow out into a fiery mane, with Jumpyro's little face poking out. It's starting to stand up straight, and its fiery feet is starting to emanate fire. The Pokédex says, Jumpyro's jumping abilities are incredible. Their new fire-erupting feet allow them to jump and flip around like no tomorrow. They have learned many ways to jump and dive around, allowing them to roam around vast distances. Jumpyro have overcome their linear limitations, and have mastered 3D movement. With their new movement capabilities, there are no heights they can't reach. It is the mascot of a famous video game series created in Kanto. Jumpyro's legs and explosive feet can now propel them to new heights. Instead of just jumping, they can chain jumps together for higher heights. Side flip, back flip, dive back down from a jump, jump off walls, and even hover in the air thanks to their fiery feet. But for some reason they spin their tail while doing this. All of this is why it gains the flying type. It has a handle over the air like no other Pokemon akin to it. Jumping and acrobatics are very air-based abilities, right? It can basically soar with how well it jumps. This Pokemon's jumping abilities are not fully mastered, however. Even though it is pretty amazing now, just wait until it evolves into Blaziken, the acrobatic Pokemon, fire flying type. With their spiky, fiery hair flowing through the breeze as it gains airtime rivaling many bird Pokemon, this kangaroo Pokemon is able to leap across the whole region with their fantastic legs. They are basically able to fly, with how well they have now mastered their pyrokinetic propulsion jumping ability. Hence, the flying subtype. The Pokédex elaborates, Blaziken are able to soar across the world with their incredible jumps. With their air-defying twirls and mid-air explosive jumps, this Pokemon are unmatched when it comes to their acrobatics. It's been cited that this Pokemon even rescues kidnapped Pokemon. Blaziken hone their skills by trying to make impossible jumps that don't seem possible. If they can make it, they are praised and loved by other Blaziken. Rumors say that if you hit a Blaziken hard enough, they will de-evolve back into a Jumpyro. So, this fiery acrobat came a long way from being a one-way little mouse to this master of bouncing around the world with ease. It isn't shocking to find Blaziken in places they really shouldn't be, like on top of buildings and mountains. They just love to jump around and see where they can go. As you can see by the whole line's stats, they are mainly focused on physical attack and speed, but they do have a pretty decent special attack stat for special fire attacks like Flamethrower, for example. This line even gets their own signature move, learned as early as a Kindhop, Fireball. The Pokemon creates a ball of fire and throws it at the foe. It attacks twice. So, 2 fireballs in one move. It's a simple little move that can be learned by many Pokemon, but it is the signature move of this line. It's probably learned by other Pokemon via like egg moves or something like that, I don't know. The Kindhop line learns it naturally, essentially, I guess that's what I'm saying. Blaziken, however, learns their own signature move, exclusive to them, Firebrand Bash. Blaziken jumps into the air, then lands back down, then strikes the opponent on the head with its feet erupting flames. This is basically Fire-type Fly with the chance to burn. They jump, a turn is skipped, then they land. Having a Blaziken with Firebrand Bash and /or Fireball gives you a physical and or special fire attack theme to them. I think that's just pretty neat. It depends on how you want to build yours. Most likely a physical attacker, because physical is its better attacking stat. It makes sense to me. Also, here's their shinies. I know you've already seen them in the Pokédex screens, but I just wanted to showcase them properly. They turn white and blue. Blue fire is always pretty cool. So, what is this line based on? You're probably wondering. Well, I want to finish talking about the starters before I start talking about what they're based on, since all three starters are pretty much tied together in their theming. But what I can say for now is yes, I know it's weird that a kangaroo mouse evolves into a kangaroo, and Junpeiru is like an in-between of a mouse and kangaroo, which I don't know if that even exists. Creature! But this is Pokemon. I made one jumpy boy evolve into another jumpy boy. Man, kangaroos are one of the best jumpers in the animal kingdom after all, and kangaroo mice slash shiboas are pretty jumpy little things anyways. Heck, one version of the name literally is kangaroo mouse. Kangaroo mouse into a kangaroo, it kinda makes sense. This is also the same series that has a gunfish evolve into an octopus tank. How does a fish turn into an octopus? It will all make sense soon. Trust me, we will get there. And that is the Blaziken line. Kindhop, Junpeiru, and Blaziken. An acrobatic fiery kangaroo who loves to run around, jump, and play around in the open sandbox that is the Gemuzo region. Heck, around other regions too, but they're the most common here. They are pretty rare, but pretty loved Pokemon. So, what do you think of the Blaziken line? Let me know in the comments below. Let's move on to the water starter, Splout, the inky Pokemon, pure water type. This little guy is just a little squid with a metal tip on its head and metal rings around his big suction cups. Those suckers shoot out ink with a watery shell to help shoot for longer distances. However, Splout isn't the best at this right now. It's just a little spout. Hence part of the name, but I'll get to that later. Let's see what the Pokédex says. Splout are silly Pokemon, roaming the seas and land just purely out of curiosity. The shinier the metal parts on the Pokemon are, the more active the Pokemon is. While it can hover, most of the time, it lays on its back to relax. Splout shoot water at each other as a form of play and to make friends. They do this to Inkay too. However, the Inkay mistakes the friendly gesture as a threat. If a Splout shoots you with its water, it means it likes you. This little guy is just a curious little being who just wants to play around and shoot water. Their ability to shoot this inky water will be honed over time, evolving into Squidream, the sparring Pokemon, water steel type. Squidream are going through their edgy phase, thinking they are cooler than the rest. The giant spike that forms a part of their eye mask even looks like a giant hairband that would cover one of their eyes. If it were hair. You know, kind of like the stereotypical emo gothy look. Edgy. These edgy Pokemon tend to gather in groups and spar with one another, hence the category name, the sparring Pokemon. And yes, they are meant to look like dorks trying to look cool and edgy, because that's what they are. Some of the smaller tentacles that they had as a Splout have now fully grown out. They use these new tentacles as their legs. Their before internal ink sacs are now so big, they now grow on the outside of the Pokemon's arm tentacles. They have grown into a more humanoid shape to have better mobility in combat. But they aren't used to their leg tentacles yet, so they can be a bit wobbly. The Pokédex mentions, Squidream's body is a mixture of ink and liquid metal. Its metal ink grew because of their more battle-focused attitude. The shinier the metal, the less brawls it has been in. To Squidream, not sparring is a sign that they don't like each other. Squidream are very battle-focused Pokemon. They are always competing with each other. The more intense the fight, the better friends the group are with each other. Despite seemingly being too cool for emotions, they still greatly care about their squad. That's their group name, by the way. A squad of Squidreams. You know, like a murder of crows, that kind of thing. It gains the steel typing thanks to it creating more metal-like ink for its body. While Splout has metal on it too, Squidream has a lot more of it, and made itself armor out of the substance. Given that they fight a lot, they need something to protect themselves, hence the metal ink. Squidtream are constantly fighting with each other and other Pokemon. They just love the Call of Duty and will spar any chance they get. If two Squidtreams don't fight, it's because they actually hate each other. There's no respect for the other one. They're not even worth my time, kind of thing, you know? This battle-hungry attitude isn't really out of edgy violence or pent-up aggression, more so that they just love the thrill of the duel, the thrill of battle, the thrill of the game. Plus, they want to hone their skills to evolve into Ink Geyser, the battling Pokemon, Water Steel type. I'm gonna admit, I don't know how to pronounce this Pokemon's name that well. I'll explain the etymology later, but Ink Geyser? Sure, we'll go with that. Now this is the Pokemon Squidtream was trying to be but couldn't. Ink Geyser are master marksmen with 4 tentacle arms. Yes, it has 4 arms now! Why? Because each arm shoots different kinds of shots. In simple terms, they are a standard gun, a rifle, an explosive round shooter, and a Gatling gun. Kitchen gun! The leg tentacles also now have ink sac tank things. Ink Geysers are able to dash around the place by shooting ink out of those leg tentacle suction cups. So yes, even the legs are guns. The Pokédex mentions, Ink Geysers have mastered their body plan to excel in the art of combat. Each one of their 6 tentacle limbs can now shoot watery ink in a variety of ways. It stands like a human for mobility's sake. They are pretty chill Pokemon despite their battle-hungry nature. Ink Geyser can gather into groups of 100 and have a massive sparring match. Whichever Ink Geyser is left standing is crowned the Kaiser of the group. Until the next match like 2 minutes later. They fear no opponent and will fight to their limits. Ink Geyser are made for battle. They will fight any foe. They are always in pursuit to get stronger and be the Kaiser of Ink Geysers. So why is it a squid? Why is their shiny colours this pinky red? Look at the shinies! Why are they very battle and gun themed? Just like with the Blaziken line, I'm going to explain all of it later. For now, I will talk about the line's signature move that it can learn as a Splout, Inky Blaster. The Pokemon shoots a concentrated blast of watery ink towards the foe. It's even able to hit more evasive Pokemon. So say a Pokemon has used Double Team quite a lot. Inky Blaster still has a pretty good chance of hitting them, whereas other moves will have a harder chance to. Inky Blaster's just able to shoot better. A pretty good sharpshooter, huh? Ink Geyser's signature move is Tentacle Shotdown. The Pokemon draws its tentacles to shoot, and one of 4 attacks can happen. It can either be Inky Blaster, a multi-hitting move that at least hits twice, a big, powerful, explosive pop that leaves Ink Geyser unable to use attacking moves next turn, or a never-missing Snipe Shot. It's a bit of a gamble, but all of these attacks are pretty good. Making all 4 of these moves separate would make Ink Geyser have like 4 signature moves, and I felt that was kind of unfair. So mashing them all into one move sounds a lot more fun. It's more thrilling to see which tentacle shoots and strategize according to it. Like say the big explosive shot goes off, and now Ink Geyser can't attack for the next move. You could set up a protect or a substitute or some sort of status raising move, or maybe throw out a status condition onto the opponent. Since you have this recovery period where you can't attack, you might as well do something, right? Again, it allows for strategy. This Pokemon is a powerful special attacker, focused more on shooting based moves than anything else. Because of his inky and metal body, he does have a pretty good defense. But his special defense isn't the best, however. While they are used to mind games, anything that could throw them off of their game can be pretty detrimental. Its physical attacks are poor too. These guys are more based on far-away shooting than close-up combat. They are very inky beings, so getting slapped by one wouldn't be that powerful? Let's be real. It's like getting slapped by a tub of goo. If you haven't realised yet, Ink Geyser mainly is just ink. It has very little bones. It doesn't really have very solid matter. It is just ink. It is just a very solid and at some point metallic ink. It's gooey. And that is the Ink Geyser line. Splout, Squirtream, and Ink Geyser. They are sharp-shooting gunmen, gun squids, that love the thrill of battle. They're pretty set in their ways, but make excellent partner Pokemon. So what do you think of the Ink Geyser line? Let me know in the comments below. Last but not least, the Grass Starter, Terrifido, the cautious Pokemon, pure Grass type. Look at the puppy! They are pretty timid and alert Pokemon. It's a big scary world out there, so Terrifido tend to try and warm up to a trainer, or to some adult Pokemon. They are small dogs who live out in the wild most of the time, but really want to be taken care of. They're scared of everything. Just look at that face. They are pretty earthly coloured and have a bell around their neck like a dog collar. That quote-unquote bell holds something very important to the Pokemon. The Pokédex tells us that Terrifido live out in the wild, much to their dismay. Their amazing hearing and sense of smell is what leads to their nervousness, since they are overwhelmed by everything around them. Even if they like the smell, they're still scared of it. Terrifido are timid Pokemon who just want a loving home. While Terrifido wants to approach humans and Pokemon to help them, they're too scared to do so. Its grassy fur doesn't help with it blending into the environment, making it less noticeable. Terrifido are pretty rare to see, since they are so timid. It's recommended that in the Gemuzo region that if you find one, catch it immediately and send it to a Pokemon Center so they can be adopted. Many Gemuzo people want one as a pet, so it's a win-win for the people and the Pokemon. You could also keep it for yourself, but you could also give it to a Pokemon Center so that it can be adopted if you don't want to take care of a Terrifido. It's fine, just we will get the dog a home. In fact, that's how you end up getting one as a starter. Some lucky person found one, captured it, and gave it to Professor Deku, ready for a new home. Oh yeah, its fur is very similar to grass. It's like a stronger grass that you can't just snap by pulling on it. If you do shave a Terrifido, you will see dirt brown skin underneath, like grass growing out of dirt, you get it? But this scared little puppy won't stay scared for long. In fact, when it evolves, it just goes from one extreme to another. Terrifido evolves into Cleptriever, the collecting Pokemon, grass ground type. Cleptriever have overcome their scaredness, and are now happily curious about the world, to a hyperactive level, thanks to its connections to the Earth it has now. Being part ground type now, Earth's crust-like armor has started to grow up the legs of the Pokemon. The Pokédex explains that Cleptriever are very curious Pokemon, wanting to explore every nook and cranny they can find. Their favourite thing to do is find shiny new objects and store them in their bushy tail. Their tail holds many kinds of items it can use for later. Cleptriever are used by treasure hunters to find hidden goodies across the world, but they have to fight Cleptriever to gain the loot. The flower on the Pokemon's chest acts like a sonar dish for the Earth itself. Terrifido's bell is actually a flower bud. Once it blooms, Terrifido will evolve into Cleptriever. The anxiety is now gone, giving Cleptriever the confidence to explore the world thanks to that flower sonar dish. It's more aware of its surroundings, essentially. It's not as nervous anymore, because it knows what the hell is going on. This Pokemon is basically a kleptomaniac. It will even fight other Pokemon for loot. It sees a Chansey with a lucky egg? Well, you will give me the egg! Cleptrievers are a handful to manage, that's for sure. It becomes part ground type because of its newfound connections to the Earth itself. You know, ground. But once Cleptriever has mastered its skills in hunting, it will evolve into a mature, seasoned hunter. Wallonier, the earthly Pokemon, grass ground type. Wallonier are very confident and proud Pokemon, being an emissary of the Earth itself in a couple of cultures. Wooleneer are masters of the open world and can basically roam free. The earthly crust has risen up the legs even more now, giving the Pokemon's legs more armor. Those legs are now one with the earth itself. The Pokedex describes the Pokemon like, Wooleneers are masters of the earth. You could put one in a region it's never been to, and in seconds, the Pokemon will already know the terrain like the back of its paw. Grass grows as it runs across the landscape. Because of this, it's described to be an emissary of the earth itself in some cultures. Wooleneer use their bushy tails full of items to fight. They seem to have everything from a sword, to healing items, to hold items in that tail from their Cleptriever days, making them great warriors. While usually silent, you know when one is fighting, giving their distinct yelling howls. Wooleneer are nature wolves that love to protect the lands that they roam. The Pokemon are very loyal to their jobs as protectors. Protectors of the earth and protectors of their trainers. Using their greater flower sonar, they can find even the rarest of treasures. The earth is their playground. They can also find abandoned Terrafidos and take them in. Their thrill for hunting shiny new items is still there, they just aren't as hyperactive as Cleptriever. Wooleneer aren't really your typical hunting wolves, they're more so just treasure hunting wolves. However, if a fight is needed, they will battle. The line signature move that they can learn as a Terrafido is Terrain Claim. The Pokemon slams its paws into the ground to have grass grow all around it. This boosts the Pokemon's evasiveness. It allows all three dogs to maneuver around the terrain much better, now that it's claimed the terrain as their own. Wooleneer's signature move is Tailworth Slash. Using the sword Wooleneer has in its tail, it will slash at the foe many times. However, because of the tail's nature of holding many items within it, some items can drop out and give Wooleneer benefits. This can be stuff like raising one of its stats by one stage, recovering health because it stores healing items in that tail, or some defensive items like a free Protect, Reflect, or Substitute can just drop out of the tail. It's a pretty useful basic grass type slash attack, but has random special effects. It will never not have some effect after the attack is done, so you can always expect something good to happen. However, it does have a low power, so you'll be using this move more so for its utility rather than it being a main attacking option. This Pokemon is a lot more defense orientated. It's more of an explorer, but it is still a wolf at the end of the day, so they do have a pretty good bite to them. Physical defense and HP is great, but their special attack and special defense stats are pretty poor. This Pokemon line learns a lot more moves that involves items or the terrain in some way, or just more defense orientated moves. This is a very tactical Pokemon. It's more about how it handles a battle rather than it just going in head first. They have to outsmart their foe rather than outpower them. And here are the shinies! They are autumn coloured. Pretty easy to explain actually. The items they also carry change colour. Like the Pokeball becomes a Premier Ball, and the Max Potion becomes a full Restore. I just think it's pretty neat. Finally, a shiny I can actually explain! And that is the Wooleneer line. Terrafido, Cleptriever, and Wooleneer. A line of dogs that go from timid to hyper to a seasoned master. They are very loyal Pokemon to have by your side. Even if they get a little bit sidetracked trying to hunt for treasure, they will always be there for you. These majestic wolves can heal nature while savaging for treasure. A wolf of the land that breathes the breath of the wild. So, what do you think of the Wooleneer line? Let me know in the comments below. Now that you've learned all about the brand new Pokemon, I can stop being vague and go over the full design concepts of this trio. It just makes more sense to introduce these guys as a trio. So, you know how starter Pokemon tend to follow a theme? For example, the Kalos starters are all RPG classes. The Galar starters are British culture. Well, my starters are something akin to that. They are famous gaming genres: platformer, first-person shooter, and open-world adventure. You may have actually been able to figure this out through the context clues that I've been sprinkling in, but that is what these guys are. But hold on a minute, doesn't Nintendo have something akin to those kind of games? Oh yeah, they do! Super Mario Bros., Splatoon, and The Legend of Zelda. Of course Pokemon is gonna lean more towards Nintendo reps, because guess who Pokemon belongs to? I do feel like if Pokemon is going to do a video game based Pokemon region, it would be very heavily Nintendo leaning, if not purely Nintendo leaning. Plus I do know Nintendo stuff more, so you're gonna have to put up with it. Now with that extra context, let me explain everything. Kind-Hop is a 2D retro platformer. Their colour scheme is even based on Mario's colour palette from the original Super Mario Bros. Very basic with their movements and abilities. Hence the Pokédex saying that they move in very linear lines, and if they can't get over an obstacle, they're just sad because they don't realise they can just move around it. They're a 2D platformer character. Their name is Kindle and Hop put together. No, it's not Kind-Hop, it's Kind-Hop, like Kindle. Although these Pokemon are very kind, so I guess that kind of works maybe. Mario's a kind man, come on. Jumpyro is the jump to 3D. Get it? It is basically Super Mario 64, the Pokemon. He can now run around in a 3D space and do many assortment of jumps. And is kind of built like Crash Bandicoot. This guy is the jump to 3D. Very early 3D platformers like Super Mario 64 and Crash Bandicoot and stuff like that. His name comes from Jump, Pyro, and Roo from Kangaroo. Because I guess he's a kangaroo? Maybe? Jumpyros are the mascots of the Super Jumpyro Brothers games. Heck, the most recent one that came out was Super Jumpyro Brothers Wonder. This is basically the Pokemon equivalent to the Super Mario franchise. Mario's a kangaroo instead of a human there. There's even a green Jumpyro to be Luigi. Eat a super mushroom and Jumpyro becomes Blaziken. I guess it would be pretty cute if the whole line's favourite food is mushrooms. That'd be fitting, wouldn't it? Blaziken is the modern day 3D platformer, aka Super Mario Odyssey, Crash 4, It's About Time, Sonic Frontiers, all that kind of stuff. They are also the most like Mario. They have this extra fur that's meant to be like overalls, and they even have a pocket, aka their kangaroo pouch. Little baby Kind-Hops can rest in that little pouch pocket thing. I think that'd be a cute detail. The name comes from Blaze, Acro like an acrobat, Roo as in kangaroo, and Rio from Mario. This line's whole fire flying type also comes from Mario. Mario's most famous power-ups are fire and flight. The Fire Flower, Super Leaf, Feather Cape, Mario's firebrand powers in Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga. Mario is associated with fire all the time, so it all just fits together, doesn't it? The shiny colour being blue isn't just for the blue fire, but is also the colours of Sonic the Hedgehog. Hence why Blaziken's hair looks like Mario's cap plus Sonic's quills. This entire line is the mascot platformer genre as a Pokemon. Sonic, Mario, Crash, Kirby, KO the Kangaroo, Bobsy even, Acro the Acrobat, anybody? And many, many more. There are so many mascot platformers out there. Most of them are animal based because they wanted to copy Sonic. So, that's what Blaziken and the rest of the line is. Mascot platformer. Mainly Mario, but Splout and the rest of the line are based on the body plans of Inklings from Splatoon. You know how like when Inklings age up, they grow into humans essentially? It has that vibe. It's based on this. Splout is the baby squid form. It's also more based on early space shooters like Galaga. This thing is a little ship, hence why it can float as well. Just a little simple shoot 'em up. The name is Splat from like Splatoon, that whole thing, and Spout, because it's just a little water spout for now. Squidream is the 2000s to early 2010s era of FPS games. You know, stuff like Call of Duty, Battlefield, Halo, you know, them lot. Those kind of games were pretty massive back then. Not to say that they're not still massive, they're still one of the most popular gaming genres for a reason, but you know, companies like to ruin their games. The whole deal with Squatreams fighting each other is basically a nod to online matchmaking with friends. This guy is the mid-stage of the Inkling aging chart thing. These ones right here. The name comes from squid, because look at it, and stream, like a stream of water. So it goes from a spout to a stream. What does it become next? Geyser is based on the newest evolution of the first/third person shooter, the Battle Royale. Your PUBGs, your Fortnite, your Call of Duty Blackouts, I think? Hence the Pokédex saying 100 of these guys can gather around to battle. They're having a Battle Royale. This Pokemon is also the full humanoid form of the Inkling. The name comes from Ink, Kaiser, because haha, Victory Royale. Kaiser is Emperor in German, but similar vibes, right? And lastly, Geyser, a huge stream of water that just suddenly spouts out. You know, it's a very strong pressure water thing. It could be a gun. So it goes from a spout to a stream to a geyser. I hope you see the through line. The ink in its name also comes from Inkling, the main playable characters in Splatoon. Each tentacle on this Pokemon is actually based on a Splatoon gun weapon class. Shooters, chargers, blasters, and splatlings. Those are the arms. The legs are dualies. So yes, technically, Geyser can shoot out of its feet. All of the tentacles are practically the same, they just use two of them as the legs and the other four as their arms to have that humanoid shape for movement. I've said this before. The shinies of this line are coloured after the Octolings, specifically Agent 8, another playable character in Splatoon. Terrafido and its line are more based on the stages of tackling an open world game. Or, to explain it a little bit more simply, people's mindsets of open world games. At first, you're pretty worried, maybe a little on edge. It's a pretty big world out there, and you might be anxious about missing out on good stuff in the game, or missing out on cool side quests, or just end up wandering aimlessly. It might even be your first open world game, so you're not exactly sure how to really go about things. Without looking up a guide, because Terrafido can't look up a guide. If you don't feel like this, you are already a Kleptriever or a Wooleneer. Terrafido's name comes from terrain, like the land, terrier, the dog breed, and Fido, a basic name for a dog. It's a terrified, terrain, terrier Fido. Yeah. Kleptriever is the stage where you're exploring the world, learning about all of what the world has to offer, collecting as many cool goodies and stuff as possible. You're addicted to the thrill of the hunt. What could be in that cave? What could be up that mountain? What would happen if I talk to these people? Oh, those enemies have some pretty cool loot. If I fight them, maybe I can steal it. You know, all of that stuff. The name comes from kleptomaniac, the urge to steal items, and retriever, like a golden retriever. The Pokemon basically hunts and retrieves things in a kleptomaniac-like fashion. Kleptriever's tail is an inventory. Come on! Wooleneer is the master of the open world. They know all that there is to know about said world. Their inventory tail is full of the best weapons, items, and armors. Truly, a master of the world they were given. Wooleneer's name comes from Wolf, Link, as in Link from The Legend of Zelda, but it can also mean its link to the Earth itself, and Pioneer. Someone amongst the first to explore or settle a new country or area. Essentially, some of the first people to play an open world game. Wooleneer was the first one there, and they have mastered the world before other Pokemon could even be born within it. They are truly the pioneers of the Gemuzo region. This Pokemon is basically Breath of the Wild mixed with Wolflink. It works so well. Heck, Kleptriever and Wooleneer's Sonar Flowers is the Silent Princess from Breath of the Wild. Notice how all three Wooleneer stages have this extra fur at the back of their heads? It's Link's iconic cap. I also blended in some ideas from Okami, an amazing Zelda-like game with a wolf protagonist. The silent princess around Wollenir's neck can kinda be seen like the Roserade from Okami. Heck, maybe if this was animated, the petals could actually spin around Wollenir's neck, mimicking the Roserade from Okami even more, but this wolf is basically Breath of the Wild Link, Wolf Link, and Okami's Amaterasu put together. The shinies are actually thematic too, not just to Sonic, Octolings, and Autumn, but they also are red and blue themed. Not only like, well, Pokemon Cobalt and Crimson, but it's also referencing teams, like Red Team and Blue Team. Blaziken goes from red to blue, Geyser goes from blue to red, and the green Wollenir goes to an autumny orange colour. The silent princess flower goes from blue to red, however. Green is closer to blue and orange is closer to red, so yeah, I think that works. So with the regular colours and the shiny colours, you have a red team and a blue team set of starters, which I think is pretty neat. Finally, all three starters are themed on Nintendo's most famous IPs, on top of them being based on famous video game genres, those being Mario, Zelda, and Splatoon. You can't deny that those three video game franchises are very, very popular. Well, yes, Pokemon is the most famous out of these three, arguably, given it is the highest grossing media franchise ever. But how the hell do you make a Pokemon? Pikachu squared? Charizard squared? A Charizard Pikachu hybrid? Maybe with a bit of Eevee in there, because Eevee is also now technically a mascot for Pokemon? I do not know. The Pokemon franchise is being represented in Pokemon Cobalt and Crimson by being a Pokemon game. Pokemon is heavily represented in the series. I don't think we need a Pokemon. Although if you want a Pokemon, let me know in the comments below and I will try to make one. It'd be pretty fucking funny. It'd be the fourth starter, like how Pikachu is technically the fourth starter of Kanto, which makes Eevee the fifth starter because of Let's Go Eevee. Huh. Anyways. Very detailed starter Pokemon, aren't they? They are gonna have a lot to their theming and design. These Pokemon were crafted meticulously to become the embodiment of the themings I decided to go for. Popular game genres. Nintendo, funnily enough, lined up pretty well with platformer, first-person shooter, and open world with Mario, Splatoon, I know it's a third-person shooter, shut it, and Zelda. So I went for it. Blaziken is your mascot platformer, Geyser is your battle royale shooter, and Wollenir is your open world adventure. Also, yes, I know my art is shit, but at least it showcases what I have in mind for their designs. Could they be improved? Of course they can. Maybe there's details on these Pokemon that I could have added that I never thought of. Maybe these Pokemon designs don't necessarily work. I don't know! I like them! I like them so they were good enough for me. I just think they illustrate the themes and designs that I wanted to go for pretty well. But my opinion is my opinion, and sometimes they can be wrong. I'm willing to admit it. And also, yeah, the Gemuzo region map is shitly made, I know, but I can't draw land masses. This is essentially a rough sketch. It's like, this is how I want the island to look like, and this is where I want the towns and city landmarks to be, along with a couple of other landmarks, but I will talk about those in different videos. I want to give a big special thanks to the Cat Hands, one of my friends, for helping me design and illustrate the Blaziken line, Splout, and Terrafido. Their stuff is linked in the description below. Please check it out. Even if they are commissions, I still want to thank them for helping me out along this designing journey. Thank you, Cat Hands! So, everyone, which starter would you like? I'll take Kinta, please. Oh my god, I want Terrafido! You're gonna be weak to me. I don't care. I want the puppy. Come on, let's have our first battle. Guess I'll keep Splout for myself. Oh, those two. They've been so excited to obtain their first partner Pokemon for years now. But what about you, audience? Which starter Pokemon are you going to take on your journey through the Gemuzo region? Now that you know them fully, do you want the mascot platformer, the battle royale shooter, or the open world adventurer? Let me know in the comments below. The next episode in this series shouldn't be this long, but hey, there was a lot to say here. We just went over 9 Pokemon in a lot of detail. 9! Of course the video was going to be pretty long. In fact, I'll admit, a lot was cut out from this video because it made the video a bit too long. Like, it's already as long as it is, this video was going to be a nightmare to make. So, if you want to see alternate forms, hidden abilities, and more stuff to do with these starters, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching this far. Since you did so, a cheeky like, comment, subscribe with the bell notification on. Wouldn't be asking for too much, right? I know call to actions are kinda cringy, but you clearly enjoyed me rambling on about a platformer kangaroo, shooter squid, and adventuring wolf for like, however long the video's been. If you want me to make more videos on the video game based Pokemon region of Gemuzo, let me know with a subscription, like, and comment. Feedback on the series would be amazing. This video series is going to require a lot of effort, design, time, and it's just going to be a huge undertaking to finish the full series. So I'm personally not somebody who wants to do stuff like call to action, but I don't want to be wasting my time on something that people aren't really interested in, so then I can put my efforts into something that people are interested in. Makes sense, right? So if this video performs well, I will do episode 2. I might do episode 2 either way. I might do a couple of videos just because I want to, but knowing that this video series is going to be something that people actively want out of me will help a lot. So, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, share with your friends and all that shit, blah blah blah, because I want to know if this is a good idea or not. I'm not super knowledgeable about Pokemon. I do know a good lot of stuff, but because of how massive this series is, I'm, of course, going to miss something. Maybe a better idea for the Pokemon signature moves could be suggested. Maybe better name or design suggestions. Maybe a better way to carry out the theming of the Pokemon. If you have any ideas or suggestions about anything about this series or the Pokemon, let me know in the comments below. Engagement and views will help this series carry on. So, if you want more Pokemon Cobalt and Pokemon Crimson, go spread the word around. The Gemuzo region is ready for exploration. And with all that said and done, thank you so much for watching the first episode of Pokemon Cobalt and Pokemon Crimson. This has been J5 the Hyperforce, or Professor J5 in the series, I guess, I don't know. I'll see you whenever next. Till then, gotta catch 'em all!